Welcome to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I'm Richard Dugan, your host. I thank you so much for joining us. And we have a returning guest to our program, and I'm very excited that she has joined us again because we're going to have an interesting conversation. Yes, overall, I think that she and I would both jump on the same bandwagon that we're trying to change the world for the better for everyone. However, sometimes things don't quite go the way you planned, and so then you have to, sometimes people would say punt. Others would say, well, I've got to go within. I've got to check with my intuition, see what I should be doing next here. And in one sense, you might say that's kind of where we are. We've got a lot of things that are moving around and flowing around the world, around the country, the states, and so forth. But right now, what we have with us is Suzanne Taylor. And she is joining us, and she's going to talk to us about something very interesting that I'm very curious about, because I think this is kind of cool. Before I have her come on and share with us here, SueSpeaks.org is the website we'll be linked to, SueSpeaks.org. And we're going to talk today. First of all, welcome back to Tell Me Your Story, Susan.
Well, I just love trying to save this world. Any chance to get to talk about it.
Absolutely. I agree with you. Well, you sent out, I guess it was a blog, but via email, that I was rather intrigued by. And of course, I'd heard about this concept before regarding 6 degrees of separation, i.e. Kevin Bacon. In other words, somehow each one of us is connected to Kevin by at least 6 points on a line, if you will, of people. But also talking about Abraham Maslow and his, I guess it's called his hierarchy of needs. And you talked about that, and I'm thinking where we should start for those who aren't familiar with Maslow's Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Could you share with us the general concept of what that means, what these needs are, and then we'll go from there, because you conclude that it's incomplete. It's like there's some other needs there that he has not accounted for, and maybe it was because of maybe in the time in which he lived. Who knows? But start with helping us out to understand what is Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Well, we're always sort of trying to map reality so that we can understand it. What is this strange thing that we all of a sudden arrived in, and look at it all. And so, how does it work, and how does being a human being work? So Maslow was a real pioneer. Everybody knew his name. How many years ago? Not even sure. The human potential movement was in the 70s, I think, was its heyday. And it was coming out of this placid world where all the housewives had gotten washing machines and dishwashers, and it was going to be a new world of material progress. And out of that, the 60s erupted because that wasn't quite the happy life. And then the human potential movement came out of that, which was all of these kind of therapeutic things, things that examined the inner life as opposed to this material loveliness that was all around us. And Maslow was a real basic pioneer. And his map was how when you're in survival, when you don't have enough to eat, don't have shelter, all of the things that poverty and war and all of the horrors of humanity consist of. When you're stuck in those places, that's all you think about. You don't think about what's the world all about, what am I doing here? You think about how to eat. And he charted the hierarchy of needs. When you down at the bottom of it all, you're just struggling for daily sustenance, and it moves up through different phases of taking care of yourself and taking care of the world. But that was even, the whole of humanity learns. I mean, look, we used to keep slaves, for just a rather graphic example. We are a learning species, and what we're learning at this phase is not how to make more money, not how to, manipulate the industrial revolution. Now we're learning how the inner life works, and Maslow was a product of his time up until how much we were aware of that. We were just tuning in to that whole phase of massive phase of uh, our development, but we keep developing. And the development that we're in now is about how the oneness of humanity has to become our understanding, how we're in it together, how we should be taking care of one another instead of having wars with one another. And so, this piece that I was featuring, it's my Substack, by the way. Substack is the hot platform of the day, and I got on it where it's my you said my blog. I don't know what you even call it. It's just a writing platform. And so many people that I admired were writing on it. I thought, oh, I'm going to do that. Before that, I was kind of broadcasting. I was on constant contact with a kind of regular delivery of my ideas, because I'm just always thinking about what can we do to wake this world up to where we're nice to one another. It's very basic, but we're far from there. And so now I've switched over to Substack, where it's the hot, like the rebel. It's the big rebel looking to be the star of social networking. I don't know. I'm an old geezer. I don't even really understand all of its bells and whistles and wrinkles, but I do write every Tuesday and occasionally in between. Or occasionally I send out other people's things to my rather large mailing list. So just so people understand, when you get on Sue Speaks, that's my website with all the things I've ever done and what have you. But front and center, it'll send you to my Substack, which is where the aliveness is now. And we could also talk about my aliveness, which seems to be different from everybody else's in the world, which sounds really crazy, doesn't it? I mean, it does,
It kind of
Can
does.
I move off Maslow and to move into
No,
this
no, no.
world?
That's fine. No problem. I think that one of the things that I have noticed is that my perspectives over the years have changed, especially in the context of relationships, near and far. And this is going to sound really, really bad coming from me, a person who is a pacifist and so forth. But I watch these, and I try not to, but my wife likes these kinds of programs, although I think maybe she's starting to shift a little with all the drama. Matter of fact, and I've shared this on a previous program where we watched this one movie. I'm going to tell you the name of the movie. I'm going to spoil it for you because I don't want you to watch it. Not because it's so horrific, so it's so gory, but because it's so stupid in its premise, and yet it's a serious movie. It's called Rift, Rift. And in the opening 10, 15 minutes, you have a federal agency, law enforcement agency, that is trying to break up an arms ring. And they kill this one individual who supposedly heads up this arms ring. Well, the person they killed had a son. And as the son grew up, he found out who actually shot and killed his father. So the rest of the movie is him seeking revenge, making the officer, the FBI agent's life a living hell. First, kidnapping his pregnant wife, and of course, in the process, loses his FBI partner in this process. And then, they actually have him in custody in order to get his wife and disarm the bomb. He had to let the guy go, let the criminal go, the son go. So now we move forward 6 months or a year, whatever it is, and the guy makes a new appearance and says, "Oh no, we're in this for the long haul," and so forth. And then they show the son walking down the street, just casually, free as a bird, to continue to wreak havoc because of the fact that his father was involved in in an illegal activity that got him killed. And that's the premise of the movie. And I thought that was a waste of an hour and a half to 2 hours. And that seems to be the mentality that's out there right now. Not by not, and I think you would agree with me, Suzanne, not by the majority, but by the minority, who the minority has a big old bullhorn and they're screaming as loud as they can. But the majority, they're just trying to live their lives, get from day to day. And when I say that my perspective on relationships has changed, I don't know how many people you have on a list, shall we say, that you might have, not to that degree, but some kind of, I don't want to have anything to do with that person, and so on and so forth. Now, it's one thing to be discerning about who you let into your life, as I talk about in my book choices, but it's another thing to hold a grievance. And I have one individual who just about a year ago severed our relationship. And I will tell you, I don't have a grievance. I have a hurt in my heart for the loss of that friendship, for the loss of that creative aspect that was in my life. He made me work hard for the production that I did for him for 8 or 9 years. And then I don't know what happened, but he said, "You guys are all wrong. I'm out of here," etc. And every time I pull up photographs from those recording sessions, it almost brings a tear to my eye because he was a good friend. I don't have a grievance, as I said. So talk to us about this. Is, I think, one of Maslow's hierarchical needs for community, for relationship, for connection. Talk to us about your perspective in that regard, because people will say that the economy is the most important thing. I disagree. I think it's community. I think it's connection. I think it's relationship.
Yes.
Okay, moving on. No, please.
Well, that is the truth. Uh, that is the move we need to make from where we're attached to what's objective, what we own, how successful we are with money. Everything is monetized virtually in the world that we live in, and that doesn't satisfy. Uh, so, this unrest from the fact that we want more. The Maslow chart, I don't know if we said that it starts at that bottom where you're out of it. All you're doing is looking for food. And then it progresses through, then your food is satisfied. And then this is it. And it moves up through a scale, the Maslow hierarchy of needs. And as needs are satisfied, you move into more and more of the turning to the world and trying to help the world and being of service. So everything, if you chart back to the beginning of the universe, everything is relationship. Everything. I mean, it really is. The word relationship is the key to all the progress in the universe. Like if we were born into paradise. Everything's wonderful. We just pick the fruit off the trees and we go spear our fish. That's what I wrote about in my last Substack. Uh, we would never have created airplanes. We just be sitting there eating this, but it's when things don't work and things we want more. And it's not we might start out thinking we want more stuff, but then we discover that's not filling us up. And so what's more than that? Well, what's more than that starts to move into this other kind of not what you can grab, but what you can experience, what you can feel. And there's where relationships are. Uh, Community is the key to civilization, to happy civilization. We have prospered ourselves out of a lot of that. As we got richer, we separated. We didn't need each other so much. We didn't need to be a tribe. Now we could be rugged individualists who are becoming more successful than each other. And we've lost that essential relationship, community, being, even in this world where women, thank goodness, are treated as equals. This is my lifetime, and I wouldn't be here without women's lib. But it's created terrible relationship problems. I mean, well, it's mostly women taking care of children, even though, heavens, we have wonderful men helping also. But women trying to work and be even deliver the children. Wow, that's really hard to do. And there's so much struggle going on in this world where we're all trying to compete with each other, as opposed to this world where we lived in villages, or well, certainly in indigenous societies where it's a tribe. I remember, I live in LA, and we would go down to Mexico on occasion, drive into Mexico, where there was a fair amount of poverty. They were not such industrialized civilizations right at the border when you're driving into the northern part of Mexico. And yet they would have like a basketball hoop, and the whole town would be out, and the kids would be doing the basketball, and the other adults would be on the stoops. You got the sense that, they knew each other. Do you know something? I do not know my neighbors. I've only been in my house for 50 years, so, maybe eventually I'll get to know who they are, and they come and they go. But to be actually honest with you, I can see the house above me and below me. I'm on a hill. And so I can see that house. I can see the house across the street, and the one above that, just right in my little square. If I ran into the owners in the supermarket, I would not recognize. I don't know who they are. I don't know their faces. Isn't that, I mean, that's some kind of comment, isn't it?
Yeah.
Modern life. Now, if we were on a flat, down the hill, there are side streets and they're flat. We don't have sidewalks, so nobody's walking the dog, Down the hill where they're flat, the neighbors tend to know each other. So it's not like nobody knows each other. And I'm sure in rural, smaller towns, people know each other. But even that in this situation where I've been here for all these years, and I would not know their faces. I don't know what they look like. And they're right next door to me. There's something quintessentially horrible about that. Actually, when new people move into my little area, I tend to put things in their mailbox. I made movies. I made a couple of movies about crop circles because I thought maybe they could save the world. So I tend to put a DVD in, and I put a little note on, welcome to the neighborhood. Nobody even responds. Isn't that something to say about the way we are, really?
I get an occasional comment from a listener or viewer, a listener to the podcast or the radio broadcast, or a viewer of the YouTube channel. An occasional. I've been requesting, and I put this out there as an observation on my part. I have been promoting for I don't know how many years the request that if you'd like to be a part of the work that we're doing here on Tell Me Your Story, we would really appreciate your financial support. We have a PayPal account that's there for your security as well as ours. And I am very grateful to everybody, everybody who has supported what we are doing here through that method. But I've never received support from a listener or a viewer. And that's not a criticism. That is an observation. If you don't feel led to do so, don't. I mean, I'm emphatic about that. Trust your gut. If this isn't where you want to put your support, I'm okay with that. Unlike the ministers and pastors of the Christian station that I worked for, who worked to make you feel guilty for not feeling called to give to whatever it is that they were wanting you to give to. This is all about choices, which is what my book, Choices, 5 Steps for Life, is about. And it's people continually have told me over and over again over the 17 years that we've been doing this program, you need to monetize it. You need to monetize it. You need to monetize it. And my answer to that is, I do not want there to be a barrier between you and I, in this case, Suzanne, and the information that we are sharing and those who are listening and or watching. I don't want there to be a barrier, even if it's 99 cents. Okay. And yeah, if I'd made it 99 cents in the beginning and I've had over 121,000 listens over on SoundCloud, the statistics have shown, I'd have my $100,000. Okay. That I've asked the universe for to start with, as far as the abundance and prosperity to help others and so forth. And I know that's coming, but I also know too that what we've done, and you've alluded to this already, what we have done in our society and culture in regards to continually separating ourselves. And again, I'm not going to be critical of the individualistic aspects of the founding of this country as a republic. It was said that a republic is kind of defined as just that, that the individual's rights are paramount, whereas a democracy, it's sort of the majority's rights are paramount. And when I think about that from the spiritual context, and I'm wondering if you can talk to us a little bit about this from the spiritual perspective, the metaphysical perspective, those constructs are neither good nor bad, but from a spiritual perspective, they're irrelevant, because it isn't whether you believe that we're individuals or you believe we're collective. The reality is we are connected. We affect one another. It's not about the butterfly effect. It's about the human/spiritual effect. Can you talk to us from that perspective?
Well, first of all, I wanted to say that also my Substack is free. It's a platform where people charge, and in fact, some people get very rich. There are a few people who are just, they have hundreds of thousands of subscribers, because it's intelligent. Also, it really, probably the best stuff is coming out of Substack in terms of thinking about the world and what we're doing. But I too, hey, I don't want any barriers. I just want to get out there as much as I can. But I'll tell you a disadvantage. See, the world is set up to be monetized.
Mm-hmm.
And Substack does a lot of internal promoting. I get stuff in my email all the time about other people's stuff that I should pay attention to, whatever. I will never get promoted by them, because the way they make money is for the people who charge. And the rest of us, or me, the people who don't charge, we're on our own there. We don't feed the system. I don't mean that to be terribly critical. It's just the way we do things. It all of this, all of our thinking is based on separation, and it has led us to this world it's not just the United States. The
It's
world is
global.
right wing, and
Yeah.
all the all of these high ideals of democratic things and liberal things and progressive things. Wow, it's not our time. The world is, what's happened is that we got so good at being materialists that the
Yeah.
ones who were the best at it have got all the money now. And
Yeah.
and that's not the way you can run a world.
Well, I'll even add just a real quick proviso, then I'll let you continue, and that is that those people who've been real successful at it have a lot of the money. I wouldn't say even, and I know you don't mean it literally, all the
Yeah,
money, but the reality, I think, and this is another element that you and I would agree on, there's more than enough for everyone.
absolutely.
There's more than enough of everything.
Yeah. We've talked about that before.
Yes.
That was Buckminster Fuller's mean.
Mm-hmm.
He has a wonderful quote that I use all the time. I haven't memorized it, but don't fix what's broken, create new. Make things to transcend what's
Exactly.
going on now.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's interesting to me. No, I'm, you know what? I'm going to stop. Please go ahead and continue.
well, the problem with the money so concentrated on one side is that money gets used. So look what's happening in our election here. Look at the millions and millions of dollars since we changed our laws so
Yeah.
that uh, money could go to
Yeah.
support political money should be out of politics, shouldn't be about money at all.
Yeah.
But we have these gigantic money forces, and it's well worth a corporation to, well, or to the billionaires. The billionaires are no more billionaires. That would help the world a lot because they're controlling us with their money by doing things like supporting candidates to these inordinate degrees. Uh, and you say, oh, why is it worth it to elect somebody? Well, because then they create policies that support the people who fund them.
Yeah.
And, so, we're stuck with supporting what's actually destroying us because you look is this unbelievable what's going on here
Yeah.
now?
Yeah.
I wouldn't believe it if you wrote a story and wasn't nothing was real, you just wrote a story, and this insane person is potentially going to be the president of the United States. Come on, he's ridiculous. Look what a spool. He's just it's just a comic. It must be a comedy. No, I mean, how can this be?
Yeah.
How
That's
can this
the very
be?
interesting thing. It's like, okay, from our perspective, that's our observation. And yet there are others who are deeply, deeply rooted in, and here's what's interesting. They're deeply rooted in the individual,
Yeah,
as if the individual is able to carry out all of these different things. We have now, again, without going too deep into this particular rabbit hole, yeah, if you begin the process of stacking the deck in your favor, yeah, then we're talking about how, yeah, they can do whatever they want, they can get away with whatever they want, and we can't stop them. But at the same time, it does say in the initial part of the founding documents of this country, we the people, not me, the individual. We the people have the power, but we have been told over and over again, and uh, by the people running for these offices, what they are going to do for us. And it's like, I think I've shared this with you before. In 2000, during that campaign, I was watching a speech by then candidate Al Gore, and he talked about how we, the people, we're going to do this, and we are going to do that, and we are going to do the other thing. And then he said, and here's what the government is going to do for you. And I turned it off. I said, don't even go there. Now, I'll even go back further. 40 years ago during that campaign in 1980. The question was asked, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? Now, we all know the whole premise behind that question. I have responded to that question by saying, whether I'm better off or worse off has nothing to do with you. Where I am, i.e., the premise of my book choices, is based upon the choices I have made, not you, but I. And we've lost that. We have lost you want to be an individual, then take personal responsibility, right? I mean, that seems to me the crux of it all. We want to be an individual. We want to do what we want to do when we want to do. I have the First Amendment right to do that, right? But then we don't want to take responsibility for the consequences, intended or unintended. Can you talk to us a little bit about the juxtaposition between individualism and collectivism?
Well, you'd be moving over here into what I'm hawking now, which is that what's happened is, as I mentioned, people like us, all of these really bright pundits who are writing the columns and doing the podcasts, and we're all gadflies. We're just poking, individuals. And what seems to be up, and that I'm speaking to, is we need to organize. We need to stop being gadflies, who just pinprick things, and come together as some kind of force. We have no power now at all, the people who are critical, who I just resonate with, we're talking to other people like ourselves. Because there's nothing that gets beyond the little reality we're in, where we're not there's no voice speaking to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So somehow or other, and what is that? We need to organize. It's not that hard to do, but nobody's taking a charge. Nobody's saying, okay, let's get organized. Now, you would need somebody powerful to do that, like an Oprah or a George Clooney or a Greta, if you're going to go out to the big world,
Mm-hmm.
But nobody's doing it. Nobody is trying to create any kind of force, which would come from relationships, would come from community, would come from our joining together. So then, well, how would that work? Well, first of all, I would think you would get the best minds to meet and to have a little think tank kind of reality where, okay, what can we do? And then the thing that I was suggesting in the Substack that I just sent out, well, the most obvious thing to do is to create a giant coalition. Put us together in something, we would be a force if all the people of goodwill, of which I would think there's more than half the world, or at least, let's say, just say half the world, whatever, huge amount of people. So different if we collect ourselves, and now it's just like taking to the streets now. That makes noise, you can be heard but what an effort to take to the streets. We have the internet. Why aren't we taking to the internet? Why aren't somebody put up a flag and rally around it? And what I was suggesting in this Substack, if I can talk about that, it's okay, talk about what I just sent out. I don't know if you caught up with it. It just went out yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I made a suggestion. I moved from what we could do is this, what we could do is that. I moved into let's do this. This is me wading my way through my own, little personal reality here, but my personal reality somehow has become save the world in a way that I don't see other people doing this. Uh, People are talking about how bad it is, how we need it to be better. They're talking about how good it could be, how utopia, the
Hmm.
kind of
Hmm.
world we'd like to be in. It's beautiful. But there isn't anybody organizing anything to get us there now, you know, this is a dangerous world. We need to defuse it. We even defuse the nukes. We don't need those nukes, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but nobody is putting up the flag. So, okay, little Suzanne, one person can start a, a ball rolling. So
Hmm.
I made a specific suggestion in this thing I sent out yesterday about creating a force, uh, a coalition. Just people for the good. Doesn't have to have rules and doesn't have to have, complicated standards, or just simple
Hmm.
people for the good, however you would name that. And the specific suggestion that I made was this idea of the beloved community, which was Martin Luther King. We revere that dear soul. And how about what he stood for? Hey, it's not out of the blue. It's Martin Luther King
Yeah.
calling for, he spoke about the beloved community. And that was this coalition of us that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Doesn't exist in formal terms. It doesn't exist because people have signed up, but it exists in the potential, because the beloved community is all these individuals who are not hooked up now, but there, and you know, in shock from how the world is going. Well, how about we just be signatory? Get
Mm.
something where, look, there's millions of people. It's bigger than the Democrats and the Republicans. Why nobody has done this is like,
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense. But we have now somebody who's the logical person to do this, a logical person to do
Hmm.
this. And that's Marianne Williamson.
Hmm.
We were not ready for Marianne Williamson.
Yeah.
Poor Marianne. She got such, anytime she reared her head, she got bombs thrown at her unjustifiably. She has the perspective where we're a loving community, and she's been working it for decades. Here in Los Angeles, where she did her early decades of work, she was lecturing all the time to big audiences, 5 nights a week. She had a venue here, then she had one here, huge crowds. There are so many people so grateful to her because she called them to this loving, caring community. Uh, Not official community, but in the ethers.
Hmm.
People got such hope from her. They got such validation from her about being human beings and what we're here for. And she just, I would venture to say that she has changed more people, awakened more people, tuned more people in very practically to their own beauty, their own potential than probably anyone else. Uh, Other things are, you worship gods outside yourself. Big religions are huge, but that's not what I'm talking about.
Mm.
I'm talking about uh, something that isn't bowing to anybody, but is alive in its own right to become the beautiful world we'd like to be in, where we care about each other. You
Yeah.
see it in disasters. It's like, what's natural to humanity? Caring is natural. Uh, we've um, money has influenced us to come out of caring and
Hmm.
worshiping, what's outside ourselves.
Yeah.
Uh, but our fundamental just like from the tribes,
Hmm.
the indigenous
Yeah.
people,
Well,
they're all united,
yeah. Well, Maslow, from what I'm reading, this is primarily from your article, but I'm sure this can be verified by people going on the internet and checking this out. That according to this, from Maslow's perspective, we work our whole lives to reach self-actualization. Now, he was in associated with the Blackfoot Indian tribe, and from the Blackfoot people, a child is born already self-actualized. They don't need to become a whole person; they are already considered as complete
Yeah,
as they need to be, and they have nothing more to prove or achieve. And the society they are born into is the most important thing, not
yeah,
how they not how they can somehow become whole or right later in life. and, and I think that that is kind of sort of the point in one sense, that we take this perspective in our supposed civilized world, first world, if you will, versus second or third world, that our society and our culture has all the answers. I mean, the United States is a prime example of the arrogance. And yes, I'm an American, and I will acknowledge the fact that, yes, we are arrogant in thinking we have all the answers, that no other country and no other people have good ideas that we can incorporate. Are you familiar with the Baha'i faith?
very.
Well, I was a Baha'i in the
I
night.
know that. I know that. I thought that's something we could talk about.
Yeah,
My grandma was a Baha'i, believe it
yeah.
or not.
Well, they have these councils of nine, all the way up to the international council that resides in Haifa, Israel. And I was there for a year and a half in the Baha'i faith in Phoenix. And what I learned was that to become a member of that council, you don't campaign for it. There are elections every year for these nine positions, but you don't campaign. You live your life, you do what you do. People see your character as you live day after day, week after week, month after month. And if you are selected, you certainly can decline. But here's what I found so fascinating. Speaking of the acceptance or rejection of ideas, somebody comes to the council and they say, I have this situation, and they share it. And the council says, all right, we will take it under advisement. And in a couple of weeks or what have you, we will come back to you with our our conclusion, what we suggest that you do. You don't have to, but this will be our suggestion. So each individual of the nine, as they share their idea to help this individual, that idea no longer belongs to that individual. It belongs to the group of nine. And then when they choose to vote, and if you are in the minority, and again, you accept this construct. If you are in the minority, once the vote is completed, you accept without reservation the majority's rule or the majority's decision. Now, it is not set in concrete, but then the council gives their decision, if you will, to the individual, who then will go off and they will tell them, and if that doesn't work, come back and we'll put it under advisement again. There is no ego involved.
Yeah.
And to me, that is the beautiful thing about their system. And I also know, too, that the concept of our Congress was adopted from the Native Americans. They had a similar way of overseeing what happened in the tribe and in the community, in the village, and so forth. And it was for the betterment of all, not for just a select few. And I'm
Yeah.
not
You know,
advocate.
you're Baha'i faith. If we were all Baha'is, it would be a different world.
It
I
would be.
know that. I mean,
But
they've got
yeah,
and they do it in their own particular ways, but they're all the right ways. They're
yeah.
all,
But I'm not advocating that we get rid of one side or the other. That is
yeah,
foolishness because we all have a right to be here, to voice our opinion and our perspective. But I think that it needs to be kept in the context of personal responsibility and accountability, as well as recognizing that if you have an idea, you have something you want people to consider, and they don't accept it right away, change the message, change the way you deliver it, change the perspective of your idea so that they will understand it better. I'm sure you've had this happen to you, especially in the context of making movies. You have a particular way you want this thing to be shot. But somebody else may come along and say, I think a better shot might be da da da. You could accept it or reject it. But either way, maybe you say, you know what? Okay, I hear what you're saying. What if and now you modify your perspective to maybe one or two of the points of their perspective. You may not accept it all and do it, but you say, you know what? Moving things this way and that way and the other a little bit, tweak it. We can do that. Now it becomes a collective idea.
yeah.
A
Why aren't we
collective.
doing everything that way?
Yeah.
Of course,
Yeah.
instead of black and white and opposition,
Yeah.
and war. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
ultimate. And
We're fighting a lot over land, the right to live here, the right to live there based upon ancestry. There's a wonderful line in an Irish song that says, "You don't own the land owns you."
yeah, yeah.
And I've owned two houses in my lifetime. I rented apartments in my early years in my 20s, and I'm currently renting with my present wife a two-room cottage up on the mountain above Santa Barbara. And I love it. But the reality, some would say, well, yeah, but you have no equity. You're just kind of throwing your money away. You can't take it with you. So why would I do that? Yeah, it was great when we owned the house and we had a wonderful little home equity line of credit and we used that and blah, 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 blah. But I can't take it with me. And and in a manner of speaking, even the homeless, or the houseless, however you want to phrase it, they pay for where they live. We all do, because that's just the way it is. Now you can refer to it as paying. I would love to live in a cave because it'd be warm in the winter and it would be cool in the summer. All right. Um, but the reality is that nature, I've said this before, is our greatest teacher. And you just take a look at the animals and how they live and they survive. I don't know about you. I love watching, for example, when it's time for the salmon to go upriver and the bears come to the riverside and they're there catching the fish to eat. I love watching that because that's part of the natural world. That's the way it is. And it's not predator prey, you know. Some fish are going to make it upstream. Some aren't. They're going to nourish those bears who will go on to have cubs and so on and so forth. Some of the bears might end up being dinner for another creature that is larger, stronger, faster, and so forth. But it's not like what they did with, for example, the buffalo. And it wasn't a question of killing the buffalo for the purposes of acquiring the resource. It was for another,
We ate them all.
a nefarious end to get
Yeah,
rid of the Indians, the Native Americans.
yeah.
I'm not sure exactly where I'm going with this, but needless to say, it's all of these things pile up after a while. And it's like what you're talking about as we started. It seems as though there is so much chaos, there's so much confusion. And yet, would
You
you?
know, the difference between the bears and us, um, as nature, gosh knows we better celebrate it because here it is. We are nature. But the difference between the bears and us is that they don't have self-reflection. They don't know that the world could fall apart. And then what about their poor little cubs, you know? But we do. And so we can't live that kind of idyllic life. We have to, we care about what happens with our children. And of course, and we've created it so that it could be quite hellacious uh, in the times to come. So we're this unique thing, this unique species. Until us, there was just instinct. Nobody could hurt the world, But then human beings came along. My favorite explanation for the story of the cosmos and what human beings are doing here is this book called Inside the Universe is a Green Dragon. I bought 2,000 copies of it. I give it to everybody because it's your basic story of how the world got created, what's going on. It's a cosmic creation story. How did the whole thing develop? And when humans came along, or the story for when humans came along, is that the universe itself is the creator. It creates itself. It evolves. And what the chapter about humans is called Evil from Cosmic Risk. And what it posits is that the universe had no way to appreciate itself. The instinctive animals couldn't appreciate the universe. They just used it. But hey, the universe wanted to have another dimension where it could show off for itself, So humans were created to appreciate the universe, but the cosmic risk, evil from cosmic risk, was that the humans could hurt the universe. And indeed, ever since we came along, it's like, wow, we'll never destroy the earth. We'll only destroy ourselves.
Yeah.
The earth will go on, but we have created this chaotic, violent, kind of aggressive, hurtful place to be. That the bears we're not into that at all. They just ate the fish. So
exactly.
yeah. So here we are, stuck with ourselves. And, it's such a natural progression, though. Being these aggressive individuals trying to get ahead created the whole Industrial Revolution. Look at this incredible world that got created out of that drive that humans had to progress. But, as goes on in the big sweep of the universe, it writes itself all the time. It's like, oh, we went this direction. No. We got to, like, almost like the idea that don't fix what's wrong, create the new. So we're creating the new all the time to get us out of the holes that we created. Going along our natural path. Like our natural path was to build the industrial world. Well, the best builders got all the money. It went too far. So wait, back. We have to come back. We can't keep doing that. We can't keep making the most successful people the ones who get all the goodies, So you can't run a world where only this many people have the goodies and everybody. It's like kings and serfs. We've gone back to somewhat of a model you could point to. Well, that doesn't work because in truth, the people with all the money need all the rest of them to buy their stuff. So if you destroy the rest of the world, you don't have a working system, So this is what we have to, but it's hard, once something's in motion, it's hard to get it to go differently. And that's our objective now. We've got to get it to go differently. We've got to get it out of the hands of the few who are controlling us and are not people of goodwill by and large, because they're people who are, I guess maybe what it takes to be a multi-billionaire is a certain aggressive self-interest, and very few of those people have a caring mentality to make it an equalized world. There are some though, and I don't know why they don't stand up and say, "Look, you billionaires, we can't keep doing this. We're destroying the world.
Mm.
Hey Jeff Bezos, you don't need two yachts. Come on. Look at the starvation in the world. How can you keep so many of the resources when so
Yeah.
it's so essential for us to rebalance now. But once the gears are in place, it's hard to do that. Our systems are very stuck where they are,
Yeah.
and they keep stuck because the people who control them don't want them to change. They want their two yachts.
Yeah.
We
And of
have,
course, they will use the argument that, hey, I have a right to have two yachts because I have the money. I earned it. I worked hard for it, et cetera, on infinitum.
oh yeah,
And and we wouldn't, neither of us would argue that point with them.
uh,
Absolutely, you are correct. You can have two or 200 yachts if you want, but where is the conscience? And maybe you don't need 200. How about you hone it down to 100 or 50? You can't
yeah.
sail on all of them at the same time. And what about your humanity and your connectedness to the rest of humanity? One of my favorite people, one of my favorite artists who started a hunger program in New York or Long Island, Harry Chapin, a huge advocate, spoke before different committees and so forth back in the 70s and very early 80s
Mhm.
before his untimely death.
Yes, I remember.
Um, he is one of those voices that I still listen to because I find on
Mhm.
YouTube all kinds of different interviews and concerts and sing songs and so forth. And he never took himself that seriously. And he gave away, I think he even listed where he gave away like half or more. I love the one story he told where he was talking with his accountant. He says it was tax time and everything. And his accountant comes to him and says, "Hey, Harry, I got some good news and I got some bad news." And he says, "The good news is you made more money this year than you did last year and the year before and so forth." And it's like, "Okay, great. What's the bad news?" "You ain't keeping any of it." And he says, "Well, actually, that's the good news because after caring for his family, his wife Sandy and his sons, uh, what more did he need?" And that's the way he looked at it. And as much as I do want to have a big bank account, though I have a purpose for that. Before I have it, I have a purpose for it, and it's to help other people. It's to help. There's a radio station that I started with. I want to help them. They're a nonprofit back in Phoenix. They provided the printed page via radio to the visually impaired. And I found out also add to that list the dyslexic. And I want to help them out. And I want to do some other things as well. So it's not about accumulating a whole bunch of stuff. I don't
But
care what Steve.
Richard, I think we're at a point now where, you're not in the minority now when you're saying those things. You
Uh-huh.
and I, it's not like the early days of, let's say, the human potential movement when, this kind of idea about more interior things
Yeah.
became significant and caring became a subject. Uh, this has gone way out into the world, and there's a huge amount of people, and as I was saying before, there's no organization, there's no power that this ideation has because it's all separate people. It's so logical to just put us into something where
Right.
we have force.
Hmm.
That's my current advocacy. How can we go about creating a coalition? My suggestion is, how about the beloved community that Marianne Williamson would be perfect for? Her whole career has been about turning people into onto this self-love and caring for each other, uh, and uh, and she is the natural heir to this idea. And so my current advocacy is to get Marianne to raise the flag and say, okay, I will be the gathering place for the signature. Let's get
Yeah.
signatures to this
Yeah.
beloved community, and let's turn us into something where we really have some power. And then the other advocacy is we need the smartest people to be talking to each other to figure things out together. We have to take this world in hand. There has to be some we that does that,
Yeah.
because we can't keep going this way. It's too
No.
dangerous. Global warming is looming. It's coming down. We see it. It's already in evidence. Come on. And we have no force to deal with that. So, that's just for me, your guest today. That's where my current advocacy is. And if people subscribe to my Substack or poke into it and take a look at it, and I'm sure we'll have the connections on your material there, your text material. So,
Yeah.
have a look and join me in this kind of effort to get ourselves moving, not just talk about it, not just be aware in all of our separate ways that, oh my God, what's happening? Put ourselves together and
Yeah.
start moving the world in another direction. It's really urgent. It's not pie in the sky. It's not
No.
woo-woo, heaven knows. It's for real. We need to be doing this, and
Yeah.
nobody's talking about it even. So
Yeah.
hello.
Yeah. Suzanne Taylor, my guest. SueSpeaks.org is the website. We hope that you will take some time to go there, read some of the articles, the blogs that she's written, get in touch with her through that site. Again, it is SueSpeaks.org as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host for Tell Me Your Story, as we continue our conversation with Suzanne Taylor. We've been talking primarily today. We started out with Maslow's hierarchy, and I appreciate the time that you have given us here on the program, and everything that you have contributed to Tell Me Your Story is greatly appreciated. I do want to ask you those three final questions that I ask all of my guests before we go. But again, thank you, thank you, thank you so much for being a part of the work that we are doing here on Tell Me Your Story. I want to thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. We are giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., streaming live at those times at richarddugan.com. We also have 8 a.m. Monday through Friday. You can tune in then as well. We have podcasts on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, Blueberry, iHeartRadio. We're on YouTube where you can watch these conversations. I hope that you will. And I hope that you will take some time to subscribe and click notification so that when I post a new conversation, you'll be notified. The book Choices, 5 Steps for Life is out. It's available on Amazon.com. Choices, 5 Steps for Life in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle, with Audible coming soon. I'm working on it, folks. Take some time to record it, edit it, and then I will post it, and you'll know that it is there. I'll let you know for certain. We also hope that if you can do something for us, support the work we're doing financially. As you know, though, I have never made any bones about this, that if I don't have the funds to support what we're doing, then it'll have to go. But I'm never going to guilt anybody into supporting the work that we're doing here. And by no means are we even close to that. I heard enough of that at the Christian radio station. If you don't support the work that we're doing, the Lord is going to call me home. And I say, take the call. I think that's unconscionable to guilt people into supporting the work you're doing. And I don't want to do that. So if you can, wonderful. And I thank you, thank you, thank you for those who have helped and to those who will help in the future. And then take some time during this, the decade of perfect vision, to go within and listen to that still small voice. With all of that being said, we move into our final phase, the final three questions that we ask our guests here on the program, Tell Me Your Story. And the first of those is, who is Suzanne Taylor?
Well, somewhat of a weirdo. That's a good word these days. uh, Honest to God, I don't know why I'm the only person who seems to be looking for how we can get organized and what we can do now to get us out of the mess that we're in. But that's who she is. She's this
Mm,
maverick who's out there thinking, "Oh my God, how can I be the only person calling for this? This is ridiculous." I even have $100 offer out for anybody who could just send me a URL to any place that's scheming, and I'll give you $100. Do you know I have not had anybody request? Yes, yes, people have said, "Oh, how about this?" No, they're not doing that. Of course, there are people doing that. No, there aren't. Show me. $100. That offers
mm,
out.
mm. What gets you up in the morning?
Well, I'm not spring tan. You might notice. I want to deliver something that really helps the world before I'm finished. And I'm very aware that time is contracting as you get older. You look back and you go, oh my God, I'm not in the middle of it anymore. Oh my God. Oh my God. I have to deliver. I have to work, step it up to deliver what I can to this world.
Mm. And finally, what was your best day?
You know, You asked me that before, so if I have one best day, I would be telling you the same story, but maybe I should change my story. So, have we got time for a couple of minutes for a story? All right.
Please.
This is I thought to my, because I know this was your question. And so I thought, oh dear, can I tell this story? Best day it would be my most outrageous day. So, here's my most outrageous day. Um, I've been summoned to a high-end conference, 100 people or so. Uh, and it's the conference oh God, it was decades ago. I don't know the year, long time ago. And I'm already on it. I'm deeply into the human potential movement, self-actualization, Maslow, realize myself, do all these things, and get the world to work. And so I get a phone call from one of my allies, said, okay, you have to get on a plane. You have to come here, Wyoming. We're doing it. We're going to fix the world. Okay, so I go. It's an international something. And when I get there, they're at war. The people who put it together are hiding. They won't come out of their rooms. It was a horrible mess. The whole thing was a mess. And it's the thing that's supposed to save the world. A billionaire had organized it. She was going to build a huge center there, and this was going to be the, preliminary to that. So, okay. Now they're in shambles. Everybody's fighting. It's the opposite of what it should be. So it's a 5-day event, and I went to sleep on the third day, the evening of the third day, and at 4 o'clock in the morning, I woke up and I grabbed my pen. It's before computers. It's my pen, and I write what comes through. And every morning at this event, they had an open mic, so anybody who wanted to could stand up and talk. So I'm writing this speech that I'm going to give on the fourth morning, and the speech says, "You got to get it together. We have to stop this horrible thing that's going on. We're going to save the world. Come on, come on." Whatever, however I wrote that. And then at the end, I'm just writing, and I'm going to talk, and I did. At the end, it says, if they don't listen, now they're not telling me what to say. They're giving me a comment. The intelligence is talking to me. Remember, we talked about the intelligence before.
Yeah.
Okay. So the intelligence is talking to me, and it says, if they don't turn it around on day 4, on day 5 at the open mic, you are to stand up and you are to take off all your clothes. I
Mm.
did that. They did not get it together on day 4. On day 5, I stood up and I took off all my clothes. I don't even know why, but I knew on the way to breakfast, on the way to the morning, I was blazing. I was in an altered state. I said, "Oh my God, I'm going to do this. Oh my God." I'm going to really do this. Oh my God. And I did it. I stood up, I took off all my clothes. I'll just skip to what happened. First of all, the billionaire who was funding this got hysterical and ran away to the bathroom. You can't do that. And somebody came, put a blanket on me. Several people came and sat in a circle in the middle and held hands with me. And then something started to happen in the crowd. They started to throw out poetry lines and they started to sing and it and somebody went in the bathroom and got Ella, the funder, and said, Ella, come back out. It's what you wanted. It's happening. They're getting together. They're all happy. They're singing.
Mm.
So something happened when I took off all my clothes. I don't know. Afterwards, somebody said, well, you just humbled yourself. I mean, I didn't even know. I got that instruction. I was supposed to do that. And you just neutralized all of the negatives and it just became a open space. And what happens in an open space, people care. So anyway, my most outrageous day for sure.
Mm. Well, I want to thank you for the story as well as for the time you've given us here on the program, and look forward to future conversations to try to basically change the world for the better for everyone. My perspective is that, yeah, there may be the chaos out there, but this is still a beautiful place.
But
We
wait a
just
minute, I got to help the world here.
Well, we thank you for that. And we hope that we will have you back again soon. And again, we really do appreciate what you've shared with us here on the program.
Oh, I love talking to you. Have me all the time.
Well, I'll do my best to have you on as regular as we
Okay.
can. And I
Okay.
thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. We are giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. And until our next broadcast, podcast, video cast, love to Lal. Jeanette, I am still listening. Dad, continue to be happy because I am. Smokey, I'll see you on the other side. And to my dear friend Zorro, aho, aho.